Okay, so we're going to go through this reading lesson a little quick today, okay? So today I'm going to give you guys time to do writing because we have to have a talk about writing because some of you guys, I have a feeling, are not doing writing at home on your own time, okay? So we're going to be talking about that later after we do our lesson and after you guys have your independent reading time, okay? But today, and the reason I want to combine these two today is because that's what we're learning about today in our reading lesson, okay? We're talking about thoughtful writing and talking about reading. So you guys have been writing, and you've been writing in your notebooks, right? Remember, we switched to writing in our notebooks for our writing class, and you've been writing about your reading. Reading your mystery stories. So when I am writing in my notebook, I really have to think about the things that I have read during my independent reading time, or else I'm not going to know what to write about, okay? So I could teach you today about how to take the sort of note-taking that can help you think about your reading strategies, because that's what you did yesterday in writing. You were supposed to watch the video and talk about the tricky parts that you have with reading, especially reading a mystery, and you're supposed to come up with strategies that could help you. So I know I was working with Kwaku, and he was having a hard time with this certain part of this book, his book he was reading. He just didn't get it. So he went and came up with some strategies. He came up with looking back in the book, and he came back with jotting down some notes. And those were strategies that he came up with. So we're going to talk about a few more strategies, okay? So things that we need to know about our mystery book that we could write notes about. The story of the book, the clues, the suspects. But here's the thing. So I've been so busy lately that I haven't even started taking notes on my mystery book that I'm reading. So we're going to do this together, okay? So the question we're going to be exploring is, when a reader writes skillfully, like you guys are doing, we need to think more about reading and what would that writing actually look like, okay? So I have actually asked some of our other third grade teachers to help us with this, okay? So I asked them to go and read The Absent Author. I asked them to go and take down notes. What kind of notes would they take down if they were reading this chapter? So I had them read about chapter, I believe it was chapter 6, okay, and up to chapter 7. So we left off at chapter 6. So what I had them do then was take notes on how they thought they would come up with their own notes to work with their writing. And I misplaced our book. Here it is. Yes, so we ended up on we haven't started chapter 7 yet. We will do that tomorrow. So here's my thought, okay? So for you to be really able to think about the notes that our other third grade teachers took, I think that we maybe need to do the same thing, okay? So we need to listen to part of this chapter I'm going to read, and then think about in your head. Unfortunately, we can't do this with partners like we normally would do. Think about the notes that you would take. And then we're going to talk about some notes that you guys would take. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit from chapter 6 in The Absent Author. We read that yesterday. The part where Dink, Ruth Rose, Josh, and Mavis go talk to Livy Nugget about cleaning certain rooms at the hotel. So remember what has been going on. I'm just going to read a tiny bit, the same part that our other third grade teachers have read, and then you and your we're going to all be partners. We're going to have time to talk about it, okay? So just listen, okay? All you're doing is listening with your ears. All right, ready? Story mode. He told us you cleaned the rooms on the 3rd floor this morning, Dink said. Did you clean room 303? Livy Nugget shifted the baby to her other arm. Randy, please stop pulling Mommy's leg. Why don't you finish your lunch? Randy ran back to the apartment. No, Livy told Dink. Nobody slept in that room. The bed was still made this morning. The towels were still dry and clean. I remember because there were 2 rooms in a row that I didn't have to clean, 303 and 302. Room 302 had a do not disturb sign hanging on the doorknob. So I came home early, paid off the babysitter, and made our lunches. But Mr. Linkletter told us Wallace checked into room 303 last night. All right. Think in your head real quick. What notes would you take about that? Maybe what did Livy say? Who else was in this part of the story? Think about the notes that you would jot down. So I'm going to show you the notes that our other third grade teachers had actually taken reading that chapter. So I'm going to have you guys look at them with me. All right, give me a thumbs up if you guys can see this. Can you see this? All right, so these notes are from Mrs. Vaccareno. Let's see what she did. So she did room 302, 305. Well, I think it's supposed to be 303, right? So the rooms were side by side. So she's taking notes. She's jotting down. Look at her notes. Did she write long sentences? Are her notes these long, big paragraphs? No, I see some of you guys shaking it. She just took quick little notes, okay? So she has strange rooms side by side. Mr. Linkletter handles the room. Mrs. Vaccareno thinks Mr. Linkletter committed the crime. All right, let's take a head at Miss Wilson's notes. These are Miss Wilson's notes. Give me a thumbs up if you think Miss Wilson's notes look a little different than Miss Vaccareno's notes. Give me a thumbs up if you think her notes look a little different. Yeah, I see you guys on hand. So she took notes a different way. She actually made a suspect list. This is something you guys can do. Who are the suspects? So remember, she thinks Mr. Paskey won, Maureen, Libby. Oh, but look, she also has clues. But not only did she write down the clues, what did she write down too? Someone raise your hand. What did she write down also next to the clues? Who notices what she wrote down next to the clues to help her? Aaliyah, are you raising your hand? I can't tell. No? Okay. Who sees what she wrote down next to the clues to help her? Diana.
Numbers.
What are those? Do you know what those numbers are? Page numbers. So she wrote down the page numbers that she found a clues. That way, Malachi, put the phone away, she could go back in her book and look back at those clues. That's genius. Because instead of her spending 20 minutes looking through where was that clue, where was that clue, where was that clue, she just wrote down the page numbers. Is that something you guys think you could do when you're reading your mystery book? If you see something that really catches your eye or a suspect or something, you can write down the page number to then go back. Okay, let's look at Mrs. Stanfield's notes. All right, do hers look different than Mrs. Vaccareno? Yeah, Emmeline, right away, you're like, this looks different. She made a timeline. So she went back to chapter 1 and she gave us, which I like this. We kind of did this a little bit with Stone Fox. She went back and she made a timeline of what happened in each chapter. That way, she doesn't have to go back through the book because she already wrote down a little bit what happened in each chapter. So hers is a little bit, can you guys see she wrote full sentences? Look, each sentence has a period at the end. While Mrs. Vaccareno, she wrote just quick jots. So there's so many ways to take notes, guys, to take jots, taking notes. So you guys are going to be learning about this today. We've learned a little bit about how you guys can take some notes, okay? Oh my goodness, sorry. I keep sharing. Let me go back to this. Okay. So what you guys are going to do, let's take a look before I send you off. We're going to look at this way because this is kind of what Mrs. Vaccareno, Mrs. Stanfield, and Miss Wilson did. So Miss Wilson, she made a quick list of suspects right here. That's something you could do today while reading. Jot a timeline. That's what Miss Stanfield did. She made a timeline of what happened in the book. Or sketch a map. So none of the teachers did that, but that's something you could do. Do you guys remember there was I'm going to stop sharing real quick. There was this map in the beginning of the book. So maybe you could make a map of whatever town your book takes place in, and maybe put X's on the spots where they've visited. And the final thing is list page numbers of where the good clues are. So that's what Miss Vaccarenu did here. Once I go back. Oh, not Miss Vaccarenu, Miss Wilson. She jotted down the page numbers. So what you guys are going to do today is you are going to have your independent reading just like you